Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III.
Hello, America. It's great to be back with you for another episode of On the Move with Mac Worley. I, of course, am your host, Mac Worley III. First of all, if you're new to the program, I just would like to thank you for joining us. We talk about all sorts of things here. We talk about guns, government philosophy. I apply the news of the day through the lens of a libertarian with conservative leanings. And we're going to talk about a whole bunch of different topics today. By the way, we broadcast every Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you have anything on your mind you'd like to join today's conversation, please feel free to give us a call. The number to the show is 360-450-5625. Again, that's 360-450-5625. Today's featured topics, we're going to talk about Trumpcare, how it failed in Congress, and what the fallout for that will be. What is the reaction of the Trump administration been since then? Who's to blame, so to speak? Today's episode is actually titled Trumpcare Fails in Congress. This is episode 156 of our program. Another featured topic I want to talk about is Tim Allen being condemned for comparing Hollywood to 1930s Germany. Another featured topic, Pyongyang envoy says North Korea will develop long-range missiles to strike enemies. I also want to play a clip from Peter Schiff. He's talking about how we're dangerously close to a recession. I'd like to get his take on this, and I'm interested to hear this and hear your thoughts on that as well. And also, I'm hearing now reports that the Blaze might have suspended Tomi Lahren. And I have an article on this, have the clip in which it's about, the controversy, so to speak, that it's about. She came out and basically said that she's now pro-choice, and she said that it would be hypocritical of her to not be pro-choice because she's small government. I have the clip. We'll play it. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well on this. I'll give you my take. Anyway, so before we get into the meat of everything today, I have an article here that I thought was fascinating. It just gives you an idea of the mindset of these Democrats after the fact, Johnny-come-latelys. Joe Biden says he could have beaten Donald Trump. This is an article on the telegraph.co.uk. Article is written by Rob Crilly, March 26, 2017. Joe Biden, who served as Barack Obama's vice president, believes he could have beaten Donald Trump in last year's election if he had decided to run. Mr. Biden, 74, opted to not stand after his son Beau died in 2015, disappointing supporters who believed his folksy blue-collar appeal. Oh, geez. Could they be drinking the Kool-Aid anymore here? Folksy blue-collar appeal would have been more than a match for Mr. Trump's populist campaign. Some Democrats are still coming to terms with Hillary Clinton's shock defeat and wondering whether they picked the right candidate. Of course you didn't pick the right candidate. You picked the worst politician to run against Donald Trump, period. I mean, she's the most corrupt politician in U.S. history. She has all sorts of scandals going since the beginning of her political career and bills. And this email server scandal, it never would have even came to light had she not been hacked. So, and again, the whole reason why she had the email server in the first place was to obfuscate how interconnected her business in the Clinton Foundation was to her operations at the State Department. So she created a private email server in order to obfuscate this connection, to hide this connection. And basically, she's operating a pay-to-play program. You donate to my political fund here, the slush fund, which, by the way, that I use to travel, all my expenses paid for, everything like that. I live out of this slush fund. You donate to this, and then I'll do whatever you want in the government. This is the pay-to-play. This is the way it works. This is the way it worked anyway. And she wanted to avoid FOIA information requests, the Freedom of Information requests. She wanted to be able to hide her activity. And she got caught. She got hacked. Maybe Russia had something to do with it. Maybe not. Regardless, let's take some personal responsibility for her actions. Hillary Clinton is responsible. The Russians aren't responsible for her setting up this private email server. The Russians aren't responsible for her taking donations in the form of speech and then donating it to her to her campaign, writing off that income and living off of it lavishly. Russia's not responsible for that. She is. These FBI investigations coming out, that's not Comey's responsibility. It's not his fault that he's running an investigation on Hillary Clinton. It's her fault for her illegal activity. Everything he said, look, he gave off a list of things that she did wrong at the press conference, saying that, again, this is old news. This is all old news. We're talking about stuff that's old. But he said that she did these things. She acted very recklessly with classified material, with secret material, with top secret material, also for special access material. It's above top secret. Any one of us, you or I, we're out there being careless with this classified material, we'll go to jail. We'll go to prison for the rest of our lives. But Hillary Clinton, she's too big to jail, apparently. For her too big to fail, she's too big to jail. You can't arrest Hillary Clinton. You just can't do it. And okay, all right, look, that I think that time is over. That window is over. I hope that rule of law will succeed here. I'm a rule of law guy. I don't care who breaks the law. I think they should be held accountable. But I'm also susceptible to the argument that now is probably not the right time to do it because of how divided we are, and maybe that will create more division. However, I'm still of the opinion that I think we should prosecute. At least investigate more. And apparently this investigation's over. They investigated. Personally, I think this is worthy of a prosecution. She was caught with classified, secret, top secret, and special access on her private email server. This is against the law. I mean, that is against the law. She sent and received classified material. Contrary to what she said, she lied about it. So, but Comey says, he's not going to prosecute. He don't think any normal prosecutor would do this. Even though he said that if anyone else does this, it doesn't necessarily mean that they won't be prosecuted. So, but I digress. Hillary Clinton, worst candidate possible. And so Joe Biden saying that he could have beaten, first of all, Hillary in the primary, and then Donald Trump. It's interesting. I think this is all about ego here. These people just want to continue to assert themselves. He's saying that Joe Biden may potentially run against Donald Trump in 2020. I just don't think so. I mean, we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel here, folks. Joe Biden? Look, I made a video once. I was asking people who the president of the United States is, who the vice president is, excuse me. And nobody, very few people, I will say, was even able to name Joe Biden out in the street. We have a public education crisis in this country, first of all, folks. A public education crisis. People don't even know who the vice president of the United States is if you just go around asking people in the street. It's sad. It's just sad. And, it doesn't really surprise me that there's some pushback on this narrative. By the way, here's a Time piece, time.com. President Trump thinks America doesn't know Abraham Lincoln was Republican. And they're trying to basically make it seem like he's stupid and that... sorry, there was a clip that played there. That he's stupid and that he's thinking that most Americans are like him or something along those lines. Let's read the article here. I'll let you guys see the opinion here. President Trump thinks America doesn't know Abraham Lincoln was Republican. There's an article on time.com, March 21st, 2017, written by Mahida Gajana. I hope I got that right. Anyway, President Trump believes that most Americans don't know that Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. Great president. Most people don't even know he was a Republican, Trump said while addressing attendees at the National Republican Congressional Committee dinner. Does anyone know? A lot of people don't know that. So the article continues here, and it basically goes on to say that, it's the party of the GOP is the party of Lincoln and things like that. Look, we have a huge crisis here as far as our educational system. People just aren't learning. They're just not learning these kind of things. They don't know our history. Everything's whitewashed. Now our schools are teaching that America is the bad guy. We're the bad guy. They don't understand the nuances of these topics, like slavery, for example. Look, our founders knew that slavery was a contentious issue, and they put it on the back burner, and they probably shouldn't have done it. However, if they would have fought that issue then and there, we wouldn't have a United States. And I happen to like the fact that we do have a United States. Maybe we shouldn't. I mean, how different would the world be if our founders at the time of the founding decided that they were going to outlaw slavery then and there? Many founders wanted to. And, you know, what's being taught in our educational systems now, they're saying that our founders were evil slaveholders. Okay, you know, George Washington, he owned a lot of slaves, correct. And then they say Thomas Jefferson, he's even worse than George Washington was because, you know, he didn't even free his slaves. At least Washington, when he died, he freed his slaves. Oh, horrible slave owners. Our founders, evil people. These are the things that we're being taught now. And they completely gloss over and whitewash the fact that, first of all, Virginia law made it illegal for Washington to free his slaves while he was still alive. He can only free his slaves when he died. Virginia law. By the way, that law had changed. When Jefferson died, that Virginia law had changed. It now was illegal to ever free your slaves. So you couldn't do it according to the law. That's not to say these people are blameless for being slaveholders, and I don't know what kind of treatment they did to their slaves. But let's also point out that Thomas Jefferson, he was an abolitionist. He's on the record so many times talking about slavery and how he didn't like it and how he thought we should end it. Benjamin Franklin was an abolitionist, excuse me. And there was so many other founders that did the same. But yet we're not taught this. We're taught that America's bad, our founders were evil and racist, and we should be self-hating people. Again, this is a demise more of just our educational system, but also our culture. Our culture has become self-hating. America is a good place. America has good people. But let's go back to the founding principles. Let's go back to the big idea. What was the big idea about this country? First of all, it was to create a more perfect union. Like it's not perfect. Nothing is ever going to be utopian. But it's a system of government that allows people to be the most free. And maybe they didn't get it right the first time, but again, they said so many times that it was up to us, the future generations, to fix it, to make it better, to correct any kind of miscalculations that they might have made, or things that they couldn't have seen coming. But the idea, and what we need to continue to focus on throughout our generations here in this nation, and what I feel like we're getting lost on, the idea was to create a system that allowed people to be free and to try to forge their own path. And the government wasn't constantly getting in the way. The government wasn't trying to play nanny state. The government shouldn't be used against life, liberty, and property, for that was the reason why we created this government. To protect life, liberty, and property. So let's move on here for a second. I want to dive. Actually, I'll tell you what. We're gonna have to cut to a commercial break. We're out of time in this segment. When I come back, I want to dive right into this Trumpcare situation. Why it failed in Congress. What's the fallout? Also, why I personally would have opposed Trumpcare. But anyway, we'll be right back after this break. We got a whole lot more show. Don't go anywhere, folks.
Have you visited the On the Move with Mac Worley store? We've got amazing original design t-shirts, hoodies, cell phone cases, and coffee mugs for sale at OnTheMoveShow.com. Just click the shop link on our homepage. You won't want to miss out on the iHeart Open Carry and Bare Arms t-shirts for only $20 plus shipping. Again, just go to OnTheMoveShow.com and click the shop link on our homepage. Your purchases will help make the On the Move show bigger and better. We appreciate your support. Are you an activist who needs affordable flyers or brochures for passing out literature? or a political candidate who's looking for business cards, logo designs, yard signs, or vehicle decals? Email me, Latasha Worley, for all your graphic design needs at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com. And don't forget to mention On The Move to get a 10% discount on all graphic design services.
Oath Keepers is a nonpartisan association of current active duty military, reserve, guard, veterans, peace officers, and firefighters who will fulfill the oath we swore, with the support of like-minded citizens who take an oath to stand with us to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help us God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III.
And we're back. Did you guys hear that Colin Kaepernick is unemployed? I heard he's having some trouble finding a new team. He went free agent, apparently. He's donating $50,000 to Meals on Wheels because Donald Trump's administration has supposedly going to be cutting that, or has cut that. I don't know. Here's some comments on this story here. Pam on Facebook says, too little, too late, talking about the donation, the $50,000 donation to Meals on Wheels. Jessica Wells says, I appreciate the gesture because it's a great program, but I feel like he's trying to do damage control and have everyone forget his douchiness for a while. So I said he should. This is my comment. I said he should probably hang on to that money. I hear he's unemployed. And Joshua says quitting your job will do that to a person. Anyway, what do you guys think about this? Hit me up on Twitter at OnTheMoveShow, at OnTheMoveShow on Twitter, or you can get me on Facebook, facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow, or you can call 360-450-5625, 360-450-5625. MacPack phone lines are open. All right, so let's move into the rest of the show, shall we? Actually, before we do, there was an article here that something's going on here with the Secret Service and the White House. You know, I don't know if this was at a protest or what's going on outside of the White House. But here's an article from CNN, and I found this hilarious. Article was titled, Police, Woman Found Dangling from Shoelaces After Botched White House Breach. This is, another one of these series of people that are trying to hop the fence or get into the White House. Apparently some guy was walking around, he hopped the fence, he walked around for like 16 minutes while Trump was there at the White House and nobody got him until 16 minutes. So I think maybe we're going to see more copycats of this. I don't know if this is a lefty organized protest thing or if these are just a bunch of crazy people. But anyway, here's the article, CNN.com. Again, titled Police, Woman Found Dangling from Shoelaces After Botched White House Breach. Article written by Noah Gray, updated March 23rd, 2017. A woman was arrested late Tuesday night after she allegedly attempted to gain entry to the White House, telling police she was there to speak to President Donald Trump. Secret Service officers observed the woman, identified as Marcy Wall, age 38, walking and staring at the White House complex before discovering she had jumped a fence on the south side but had gotten stuck. Officers found Wall of Everett, Washington, hanging from the inside of the fence by her shoelaces, which were caught on top of the fence, according to a police report obtained by CNN. The individual became tangled in security features affixed to the top of the fence, suspending them from the air on the inside of the fence, the Secret Service told CNN. Security at White House was briefly elevated, with the Secret Service agents and officers elevating from the posture of their readiness, they say. Wall, who did not have any weapons on her, was arrested and transported to a nearby police station after refusing medical treatment. Secret Service and Washington Metropolitan Police officers discovered a map of the White House when the arrested Wall, who did not have... police officers discovered a map of the White House when the arrested Wall, who did not have a criminal history. I'm guessing they meant when they arrested Wall, she had a map on her. That was a typo. She was charged with unlawful entry and pled not guilty in a D.C. Superior Court Wednesday, records show. How are you going to... I'm sorry. How are you going to plead not guilty? No, Judge, that wasn't me hanging by my shoelaces. Oh, no. Okay, all right, so you got me in a corner now. That was me. Okay, you got me. That was me hanging by my shoelaces, but I tripped. I fell. That's how I landed. Is it illegal to fall? No. All right, so this is ridiculous. She was charged with unlawful entry and pled not guilty in D.C. Superior Court Wednesday, records show. She was released and given a stay-away order and has an initial status hearing set for April 27th. A message left with her lawyer was not yet returned. The arrest is the latest security incident to take place near the White House in recent days. Again, as I mentioned, on Saturday, a man jumped over a bicycle rack in front of the presidential mansion, briefly putting the complex into an escalated security posture, 2 law enforcement officials told CNN. And on March 10th, an intruder carrying a backpack with mace and a letter for the president jumped the White House fence and was able to stay on the grounds for more than 15 minutes. And again, Trump was inside the residence at that time, so he was there. Very crazy. What's going on with the Secret Service, everybody? I feel like they should be doing more to protect the president. Anyway, let's see. I'm looking at comments here. Okay, nothing particularly pithy. Let's move forward here. All right, so our feature topic. Let's dive right into it here. Donald Trump's Trumpcare has failed in Congress. So first of all, what was it? It was definitely not a free market alternative. It was his repeal and replace, and it was essentially Obamacare light. People are now trying, and they had been before it was being passed here, or before it was failing to pass. Excuse me. They had been going back and forth, deciding whether or not to call it Trumpcare or Ryan Care, since Ryan was the architect. Paul Ryan, Speaker Ryan, was the architect of this bill. It was a lot of shady things, very similar to what the Democrats were doing. You have to pass the bill before we can see it, that kind of thing. They were saying the same exact stuff, actually. So, first of all, it was Obamacare light. Some people say it would be even worse. I argue that it's still socialized medicine. Absolutely, there's equivocally no doubt that it's socialized medicine. This is not what we need. We need to, again, as we were promised by the Republicans, to pull out Obamacare by the root. But yet they're wanting to keep all of these socialized parts of it, where you're age 26, you're still allowed to be on your parents' policy. When's somebody an adult? I thought it was when you're legally an adult and 18. Why are you still on your parents' policy past that point? And more importantly, the pre-existing condition requirement, where the government would force these private insurance companies to accept people who had previous existing conditions. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is like the idea of buying car insurance after you've had an accident. You call up the insurance company. I'd like to get a full coverage policy, please. 10 minutes ago. Yeah, 10 minutes ago. Thanks. And by the way, I got a pre-existing wreck here on my record here. Pre-existing wreck. Yeah, I just had it. I'd like to be covered, though. That's not insurance. Insurance is a gamble. You're gambling either way. You're gambling that you're going to pay this money and eventually need it, or you're buying it to have peace of mind in case you need it, but hopefully you never will need it. So you're paying this money, and the insurance company's making a gamble too. They're paying the money hoping that you'll never need it, or they're receiving your money hoping that you'll never need it. And if you do, that's a risk that they have to calculate. Again, that's why they ask questions about your health, and this even goes for life insurance. You imagine trying to take out a life insurance policy? This is a ridiculous concept of a pre-existing condition. You imagine trying to take out a life insurance policy on somebody who's already dead. That is what Obamacare, that is what Trumpcare and these socialized medicines are trying to do. If they allow anybody with a pre-existing condition to come in, and these companies have to accept them, then who's going to pay for insurance until they need it? No one's going to take this gamble where I got to pay money, I got to pay a premium, even though I'm healthy. This is why people aren't going into this. People who are healthy, young, healthy people aren't going into the Obamacare exchanges. They're waiting until they get sick before they do anything. why bother? And even Jonathan Gruber, the architect of Obamacare, has admitted this program was designed to fail. And he said, you can blame it on the stupidity of the American people. The whole point of this was to create a failing healthcare sector where we'd have to respond, and they would make it single-payer healthcare, where the government just pays for everybody. Everybody's covered. Healthcare is a right. So let me ask you, is healthcare a right, or is access to healthcare a right? Do you have a right to go out and engage in the free market? Or does someone have to provide it for you? Are you entitled to someone's blood, sweat, tears, toil, the overhead of a doctor having to pay for the facilities? Are you entitled to the research that a pharmaceutical company does? To the billions of dollars that they have to spend in order to get it through, and years, by the way, in order to get it through the FDA process. Billions. Are they not entitled to make their money back? What do you think it's going to do to innovation if you just say, no, these greedy corporations, these greedy pharmaceutical companies, these greedy doctors, these greedy insurance companies, if everybody's greedy and you say that they can't make any money, if you get the government in the way and prevent them from making money off of their investment, that's what it is. It's a business. It's an investment. They put money into it, hoping that they'll make money back. Now, if you get rid of the incentive of the money back part and you start redistributing the wealth, what do you think it's going to do to the incentive of people wanting to get into that business or wanting to provide that service, wanting to create that product? Hell, even with pharmaceuticals, what do you think it's going to do to the future of researching new drugs if there's no money in it? What's going to happen? You think people are going to continue to just do it out of the goodness of their heart? We're just going to be like in Star Trek, where you did things just for the hell of it, for humanity. You didn't have to worry about money. It was all socialized over there. They had no money. By the way, Star Trek, if you're a Star Trek fan, that society is something that just wouldn't exist. You give people everything they ever need, and you've destroyed a person's incentive, their will to work. You make somebody who might have a huge potential in front of them to do great things, and you ruin them. Not everybody will fall victim to that, but it is a real problem. It's institutionalized slavery. And there's so many people in America right now that are stuck because if they take more hours at work, they get that promotion, they get another job, they make more money at all, they end up making less money overall because they lose out on government benefits. The same concept applies. If you don't need anything, I mean, granted, some people will still work, some people will still do things, but a lot of people will fall into this trap where if you don't need to do anything and the government provides everything for you, why do anything? And again, it's not like the government will ever create this utopian dream where everyone is taken care of. Again, the point here that I'm making is that eventually, and this was said, I think this was Mitt Romney, not everyone can be in the cart. You can't. Someone has to pull the cart. And if it's easier to get in the cart than it is to pull it, if you're living basically the same kind of standard of living, to just let someone else pay for your everything, than it is for you to go out and work and innovate and create and produce, then we're going to encourage people to get in the cart, and we need more people pulling it. In fact, we need to let the cart go. Again, this nation was created to protect life, liberty, and property. And when you start saying that redistribution of wealth is necessary, and that's what it is redistribution of wealth is necessary to provide health care as a right, you're violating the property rights of everyone that you have to redistribute the wealth away from. Again, the government was created to protect life, liberty, and property. They shouldn't be used to violate the property of everyone. And look, every system, every healthcare system is going to have its own problems. Every single one. No matter what you have full-blown communism where the government does everything for you, to this mixture of socialism and capitalism, to pure capitalism. There's always going to be somebody on the outs. There's always going to be somebody who's losing. There's always going to be somebody who's getting screwed over, period. That's just life. And by the way, for any snowflakes out there, let me just be clear. The world is a very tough place. There's people out there that literally want to saw your head off and put it on a pike. Literally. Just because you're an American. Just because you're an infidel. Just because you're different. Just because of this. Just because of that. This is a cruel world. The world is very unforgiving. We've created this illusion of society where everything is okie dokie. You'll never have to worry about anything. The government will take care of you. You don't have to be engaged politically. You can just hand over your free will, and the government will take care of you. That's just not the case. I'm sorry. It's not the case. The world is a very rough and violent place. It's amazing that we can carve a spot out for ourselves. Anybody who can carve a spot out for it. This is a tough, tough world. It's not full of rainbows and unicorns. So, the idea that you're going to be safe, the government's going to take care of you, it's not true. You're going to end up with a worse healthcare system. And as a result, you're going to also end up with less freedom. If the government can control your healthcare, if they just take it over, not only are you going to have less freedom over your property, people are going to be redistributing your wealth away from you, but you're going to have less freedom eventually, because this is going to lead to them throwing roadblocks in front of you, rations when it comes to healthcare. Oh, I'm sorry, you're just too old, or maybe you're not a qualified candidate to have this procedure. I apologize, Mr. Smith, but it's time for you to die. Maybe it's just your time, huh? How about instead of you trying to waste the resources and take it away from some other people who are younger and maybe could actually live longer, maybe you should just die. How about that, Mr. Smith? You have death panels. It's not like this is a theory. This has happened. The freedom of doctors to decide what they're going to charge people. Again, every system is going to have problems. And the one that we should be going with is a free market system. A pure capitalist system where people can go out in the market, can join groups of people, whoever it is. We're free to associate with whoever we want, and we can join groups and go into our own health insurance group. You get a few million people in a group that want to come together, and don't attach it specifically just to employers, and allow people the freedom of association, and allow these big insurance companies to charge whatever the hell they want, and have whatever kind of policies that they want. You get the government out of the way between you and your insurance company, the government out of the way between you and your doctor. You're going to see an explosion of competition, which is it's going to reduce price. It has to. When there's competition, it reduces costs. And the people that'll win in this situation are the consumers. And again, if you allow people the freedom of association, you allow them, first of all, to join these big groups on their own, get away from the employers controlling your health care. This, to me, just doesn't make any sense. Why do we have it so our employer is in control of our health care? I don't like that benefit. I want control over my health care. I want control over my health insurance. If I leave this job, I don't want to have to deal with what Cobra or whatever to have to make sure if I have a pre-existing condition, I'm not getting screwed. You join a group early before you're sick. You stay in that group. Ta-da! You now have bargaining chips. You have bargaining power when it comes to these big associations, these big insurance companies. Now a few million people, they can really lower their prices. They can negotiate. This is why freedom of association is a beautiful thing, and the government's violating it with socialized health care. The government violates the rights of the doctors. The government violates the rights of the pharmaceutical companies. The government violates the rights of the individual when they tax you for not having a product that you can't afford because they've gotten it involved in the system and made it so exorbitantly expensive. So it's no surprise to me that Trumpcare failed in Congress. But why did it fail? Well, we had all these people in Congress who are Republicans and decided that they were just going to ignore their promise to Americans of repealing Obamacare. It wasn't until Trump got nominated for the GOP that we really started talking more about repeal and replace. I heard repeal Obamacare a whole lot during the 6 years of Obamacare, but I didn't hear repeal and replace until Trump got nominated. Now, there were a lot of people saying it, don't get me wrong, but the vast majority of people were just saying repeal. Then Trump got nominated. We hear repeal and replace. I'd been saying this was going to be Trumpcare. It's going to lead to single payer. I thought it was going to be single payer from the beginning. That was my thoughts. I was wrong. They just basically were they were creating a program that was pretty much Obamacare light, and then as a result, they were going to be the ones holding the bag for this when it fell. Again, now, oh, by the way, my mind is blown this week. I'm watching CNN today, and I'm hearing some of the same stuff I've heard all week. I'm hearing people from CNN saying that Obamacare is a disaster, essentially, that it's going to collapse, that something needs to be done, that people are being harmed by Obamacare. I never heard this when Obama was in office. And by the way, I guarantee you we wouldn't be hearing this if Hillary Clinton had gotten elected. If Hillary had gotten elected, we'd be talking about saving Obamacare. We'd be talking about how great it is and how we can fix it and all of this. Now, even the left-wing media is admitting how bad Obamacare is. I wonder if this is going to affect the legacy of Obama, if this one will stick, that he passed Obamacare, and it was terrible. It was the worst. It doubled and tripled health care premiums. It raised deductibles to unreasonable amounts. It made it so people, instead of buying health care to ensure that they'd be financially set in the case of a catastrophic emergency, through a medical emergency, instead of buying that to prevent a catastrophic medical emergency, it became the catastrophic medical emergency. Your paying the premiums of your insurance became an emergency, a financial emergency for you. And now, if you can't afford to pay that, if you can't afford the health care that you obviously would want, why wouldn't you want to have health insurance if you could afford it? Instead, they now penalize you for something that you can't afford. They tax you. So anyway, again, it's the Freedom Caucus who stood up. It's a group of about 25 or so conservatives. Thank goodness for them. They stood up. Now, they stood against Donald Trump, and let's keep in mind, Donald Trump, I think Donald Trump is vindictive. I think he's shown that in the past of how he'll go after people. And by the way, look, if you're a Donald Trump supporter, a full disclosure, I'm not. I'm completely neutral right now. All right. Before I wasn't I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I voted for Darrell Castle of the Constitution Party. I'm a Libertarian, again, just giving you guys this background here. But we don't have to agree on everything. Okay. Now I'm neutral on Donald Trump. I'm not taking him as a whole. All right. I'm not saying Donald Trump is good or bad. I'm looking at things that he's done that are good or bad, and I'm telling you what he's done now. What actions he's taken now that I believe are good or bad. Good Trump or bad Trump this week. It just depends on the event. Again, when it comes to Neil Gorsuch, I think that was a great pick. Great nomination. My hat's off to Donald Trump for that pick. He seems like an originalist, and he seems better than anything I could have hoped for the Supreme Court. It seems like he's going to get elected, by the way. Or he's going to get, I guess, nominated. Or not? No, he is nominated. He's going to get picked for the Supreme Court. It looks like it. It looks like the Democrats are going to continue to fight it, and they're going to fight the whole way, which is interesting because it seems like they're using a lot of political capital here. You know, it seems like if they continue just freaking out over every single thing that Donald Trump does, people are going to get burnt out. But I guess my question is their base that accelerated? Is it that energized that they have to keep doing this kind of stuff? Are they feeling pressure from their base? Again, I think the left is extremely radical, very, very, very far left now, the Democratic Party, very, very far left. And I think it's surging even further. So perhaps these Democrats are basically CYA, cover their butts. But maybe they're getting a lot of pressure from their constituents, from the radicals in their party. Maybe that's why they have to continue to push against this. There was an article here that I'm going to read here. I tell you what, we're going to cut to a commercial break. I actually want to read an article about what one congresswoman said about why she was voting no on Neil Gorsuch. So we'll talk about this, and then we'll get back to Trumpcare. You guys don't want to go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Have you visited the On the Move with Mac Worley store? We've got amazing original design t-shirts, hoodies, cell phone cases, and coffee mugs for sale at OnTheMoveShow.com. Just click the shop link on our homepage. You won't want to miss out on the iHeart Open Carry and Bare Arms t-shirts for only $20 plus shipping. Again, just go to OnTheMoveShow.com and click the shop link on our homepage. Your purchases will help make the On the Move show bigger and better. We appreciate your support. Are you an activist who needs affordable flyers or brochures for passing out literature? Or a political candidate who's looking for business cards, logo designs, yard signs, or vehicle decals? Email me, Latasha Worley, for all your graphic design needs at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com. And don't forget to mention On the Move to get a 10% discount on all graphic design services.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III.
Alrighty, so we're back. I appreciate y'all sticking with us. If you would like to join today's conversation, please feel free to do so. The telephone number is 360-450-5625. Again, it's 360-450-5625. You can message us on Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. You can get us on Twitter @OnTheMoveShow. All right, so we've got a couple articles here. First one I want to read here. This is Senator Kamala Harris. She's a Democrat out of California. This article is from The Blaze. Article is titled "Liberal Senator Gets Brutal Responses When She Explains Why She's Voting No on Gorsuch Nomination." Article's dated 25 March 2017. Senator Kamala Harris appears to be confused on what a judge's job is. The liberal senator took to Twitter Friday to explain why she would be voting no to Supreme Court nominee Neil Gorsuch when the full Senate gets to vote on this nomination later next month. Judge Gorsuch, this is a direct quote from her on Twitter, Judge Gorsuch has consistently valued legalisms over real lives. I won't support his nomination, Harris tweeted Friday, linking to an op-ed she wrote for the San Francisco Chronicle detailing her decision. In her op-ed, Harris wrote, Judge Gorsuch's record also shows he's willing to favor corporations over the American people. He believes companies can impose their religious views on employees and deny women birth control coverage. Okay, first of all, they're talking about Hobby Lobby, which is a bunch of malarkey. What they're saying is that employees cannot force corporations to provide contraception or abortifacients. If you would like those, you're free. The employers aren't denying you. Feel free to go buy them on your own. However, it violates Hobby Lobby's, in this case, deeply held religious views. So why would you want to force somebody to do something against their will? Anyway, And he has been, this is her continuing the quote, and he has been hostile toward federal agencies that protect American workers and consumers. I don't know what she's talking about specifically with that. However, in the op-ed, Harris didn't really explain what she meant by legalisms. Again, she said that he cared more, he valued legalisms over real life. That's what she said. Still, during his hearings before the Senate Judiciary Committee this week, Gorsuch explained that his rulings on the Supreme Court would be based not on his personal feelings or political views, but rather the Constitution and the law, which may be what Harris says she doesn't like. Naturally, though, Twitter had a field day with Harris's remarks. Andrew Wagner says, legalisms, surely your inter could have come up with a better way to attack a judge tasked with upholding the law. At Pope Hat says, legalisms, also known as rule of law, often protect us from amoral, power-mad, politically ambitious prosecutors. At Robbie Starbuck says, so you're unhappy he wouldn't break or ignore the law? At Josh D. Walrath says, I'm guessing you really never understood why Lady Justice is blindfolded. At JBNV says, I will oppose, he's like doing a false quote here, I will oppose Gorsuch's nomination due to my own bigotry would be far more accurate. Chelsea Elsie, she says, you mean he respects the actual law and doesn't insert his personal interpretations or opinion? It's like he's a real judge or something. So anyway, this is what they're doing. Again, the left is really spooled up right now and really activated. And I don't know if their base is pushing this, but even in Congress they are really fighting here. I don't know. I mean, there's not really a whole lot that they can do unless the Republicans surprise us here and decide to vote against Gorsuch. But that would be really surprising. But let's go back. Let's go back to the topic that we were talking about. Trumpcare failing in Congress. So what's the fallout from this? Obviously, there's political fallout when something goes wrong like this. People are looking for people to blame. Who's to blame? Who's to blame? So first of all, let's go through a Reuters article here. Article is titled, Trump Tastes Failure as U.S. House Health Care Bill Collapses. This article is written by David Lauder and Stephen Holland. Article is titled, dated March 25th, 2017. President Donald Trump suffered a stunning political setback on Friday in a Congress controlled by his own party when Republican leaders pulled legislation to overhaul the U.S. healthcare system, a major 2016 election campaign promise of the president and his allies. House of Representatives leaders yanked the bill after a rebellion by Republican moderates, and the party's most conservative lawmakers left them short of votes. So they pulled it. They pulled it before it was even voted on, ensuring that Trump's 5 major legislative initiatives since taking office on January 20th ended in failure. Democrats were unified against it, so no Democrats voting for this. Which is interesting. They really ought to vote for this because even they are admitting that Obamacare is horrible and will collapse. So they really ought to get on board with this because this would be good to basically make the Republicans take ownership of the failing healthcare system when it collapses, and it still will collapse under Trumpcare. The only real answer here, well, you're going to get 2 opinions really. The one answer is what the left will tell you: single payer. And by the way, Bernie Sanders said, make no mistake, what our goal here is single payer. He said that openly. At least he's being honest about it. But the other real answer is to repeal. And not just repeal Obamacare to get back to what we had, but to get rid of all government involvement in the healthcare system. There's nothing in the Constitution that says that the government has a right to get involved in our healthcare. The only thing that you might be able to construe would be the general welfare clause. And it doesn't mean that everyone should generally be on welfare. It means that what the government does should be beneficial to everyone generally, like building a road, building a hospital, those kind of things. But again, I would argue against that. I think we should leave most of that stuff to the private sector, and the government should only do things that the private sector can't do. And again, it should only be doing things to protect life, liberty, and property. It shouldn't be acting against those things in those processes. So again, the general welfare clause can't be construed. Another thing that might be able to be construed as government being able to get involved would be the interstate commerce clause, especially if the activity is going across state lines. They might be able to regulate that. However, I think they ought not. I think the government ought to get out of the way of the people, let the free market go. And yes, some people will be without insurance. Yes, every system of government, someone would be out of insurance. Somebody would be a loser in that situation. No matter what scenario, there's going to be somebody who's got a raw deal, or there's going to be somebody who messed up, didn't make the right decisions, and end up getting screwed, basically screwing themselves. There's always going to be a system like that, and even if you insure everybody with a single payer system. Now everybody has crappy health care instead of people who really want good health care and take, have the money to buy it, to pay for their insurance premiums, and take the risk calculation in their head and say, okay, maybe I should buy insurance before I have a pre-existing condition. Those people will have health care. Those people have insurance, and the ones that don't and that have pre-existing conditions can still join groups. And again, there's all sorts of different ways that we can insure people who have pre-existing conditions. It's been done before. And my solution, the answer I'm talking about, the free market solution, yes, people will be uninsured. There will be somebody who's uninsured out there, and the left will bring them up. Oh, look at all these people that are uninsured. Oh, there's victims. Okay, we'll figure that out. But the answer here is not restricting our freedom and creating a lesser product. The answer is creating more freedom, creating more competition, lowering prices, and allowing people to choose. If you really are pro-choice, that would be what you'd want to do, left. But you're not. Okay, so let's go to the next one here. Okay, so now we're talking about the fallout. The fallout from this failure in Congress. All right, so Donald Trump, he as the article said, got a taste of failure. So in true Donald Trump fashion, not wanting to take any blame for himself, not really doing any true introspections. Excuse me. He is blaming other people. But first, I want to play a clip about. This is him talking about how the bill failed. Here we go.
We were very close. It was a very, very tight margin. We had no Democrat support. We had no votes from the Democrats. They weren't going to give us a single vote, so it's a very difficult thing to do. I've been saying for the last year and a half that the best thing we can do, politically speaking, is let Obamacare explode. It is exploding right now. With no Democrat support, we couldn't quite get there. We're just a very small number of votes short in terms of getting our bill passed. A lot of people don't realize how good our bill was because they were viewing phase one, but when you add phase two, which was mostly the signings of Secretary Price, who's behind them.
I just do not believe that at all. First of all, we're told that we can't see a lot of stuff. This is a lot of these senators, congressmen are saying that they couldn't even see the bill. So, and I honestly just don't believe the phase thing that, we're going to get it so much better. You see this one thing, but you haven't seen the second part or the third part that's going to come. Yeah, right. Look, we are being fed bull crap. Spoon-fed it, and we've been getting spoon-fed by Congress for so long. These guys are feckless. They're do-nothings. All they care about is getting reelected and trying to get by with as little work as possible. These people, none of these people actually believe any of the stuff they're saying, to include probably Donald Trump.
And you add phase three, which I think we would have gotten. It became a great bill.
I don't believe that phase two would have even happened, let alone phase three.
Premiums would have gone down, and it would have been very stable, it would have been very strong. But that's okay. But we were very...
It would have ended up collapsing, and we would have ended up being... The Republicans would have been blamed because they would have owned health care. They would have owned it. Now at least Obamacare is still belonging to the Democrats. Again, passed without a single Republican vote. They still own it. They broke it. When it collapses, and it will collapse, they should be the ones to be blamed for it. This is a good thing.
Very, very close. And again, I think what will happen is Obamacare, unfortunately, will explode. It's going to have a very bad year. I think the losers are Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer because now they own Obamacare. They own it. 100% own it.
That's one thing I do agree. They do own it.
And this is not a Republican health care. This is not anything but a Democrat health care. And they have Obamacare for a little while longer until it ceases to exist, which it will.
One thing I find kind of disheartening is the fact that he's now saying that he doesn't want to do anything else on healthcare. He's moving on. I just wonder if, the House Republicans try to actually pass a repeal like they did in 2015 of Obamacare, if he wouldn't sign it out of spite. I wonder if he's actually done with healthcare, if he's moved on and we're just stuck with this and he's actually going to wait until this blows up. That doesn't seem like a good plan. Doesn't seem like a good plan, folks. But I digress. Here goes some more.
At some point in the near future, we all learned a lot. We learned a lot about loyalty. We learned a lot about the vote-getting process. We learned a lot about some very arcane rules in, obviously, both the Senate and in the House. So it's been, certainly for me, it's been a very interesting experience. I like Speaker Ryan. He worked very, very hard. A lot of different groups. He's got a lot of factions. And there's been a long history of liking and disliking, even within the Republican Party, long before I got here. But I've had a great relationship with the Republican Party. It seems that both sides like Trump, and that's good.
Okay, so it seems like he's not belittling or berating the Freedom Caucus right here. It doesn't seem like he's attacking anyone specifically, except for the Democrats, saying that they didn't vote for it, and they own health care now.
So I'm disappointed. I'm a little surprised, to be honest with you.
This was on the 24th, according to this article. I believe that's when he was saying this. But now, let's go to some other stuff he says here. And in this, he's blaming the Democrats, which is what you might expect. They didn't vote for him at all, vote for this at all. So, and they're opposing him at every turn. But now, article dated. I'm sorry, this is Boston.com article. The article is dated today. Donald Trump blames conservatives for healthcare bill, signals new openness to Democrats. Oh my goodness. Okay, we're going to read this when we come back from a break. So you guys don't want to go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Have you visited the On the Move with Mac Worley store? We've got amazing original design t-shirts, hoodies, cell phone cases, and coffee mugs for sale at OnTheMoveShow.com. Just click the shop link on our homepage. You won't want to miss out on the iHeart Open Carry and Bare Arms t-shirts for only $20 plus shipping. Again, just go to OnTheMoveShow.com and click the shop link on our homepage. Your purchases will help make the On The Move show bigger and better. We appreciate your support. Are you an activist who needs affordable flyers or brochures for passing out literature? Or a political candidate who's looking for business cards, logo designs, yard signs, or vehicle decals? Email me, Latasha Worley, for all your graphic design needs at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com. And don't forget to mention On The Move to get a 10% discount on all graphic design services.
This is Dan Sandini of DaylightDisinfectant.com, citizen journalist, friend of the late Andrew Breitbart, and cohort of James O'Keefe. I listen to On the Move with Mac Worley because the only time he's wrong is when he disagrees with me.
Welcome to On the Move.
Second hour. All right, so when we last left, we were talking about this article about Donald Trump blaming conservatives for the health care bill failure, and now he's signaling a new openness to Democrats. The article reads, President Donald Trump on Sunday attacked conservative lawmakers for failure of the Republican bill to replace former President Barack Obama's health care law, as aides signal a greater willingness to work with moderate Democrats on upcoming legislative battles, from the budget and tax cuts to health care. On Twitter, Trump complained Democrats are smiling in D.C. that the Freedom Caucus, with the help of the Club for Growth and Heritage, have saved Planned Parenthood and O-Care. We're talking about Obamacare. And the Freedom Caucus is a hard right group with more than 30 GOP House members who were largely responsible for blocking the bill to undo the Affordable undo the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare. The bill was pulled from the House floor Friday in a humiliating political defeat for the president, having lacked support from either the conservative Republicans or Democrats. Trump initially focused his blame on Democrats for failure and predicted a dire future for the current law, but on Sunday his aides made clear that Trump would be seeking support from moderate Democrats, leaving open the possibility he could still revisit health care legislation. White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus scolded conservative Republicans, explaining that Trump had felt disappointed that a number of people he thought were loyal to him that weren't. Okay, so first of all, this is not about loyalty to Donald Trump. I am so sick of the cult of personality of anyone, period, anyone, but especially Donald Trump. I am so sick of this. You have to bend the knee and submit to everything Donald Trump wants, or else you're a traitor, or else you betrayed him in some way. In fact, we're going to go ahead and cut into a Mac attack for this. I'm fed up with this.
It's time for the Mac Attack!
Alright, so one of the things that really annoys me is that Donald Trump is feeling betrayed by the conservatives. Again, I told you from the beginning, when Donald Trump was running, when he was before he was even nominated as a GOP candidate, he said that he didn't need conservatives. He didn't even make an attempt to try to convince us. So from the offset, he wanted to expand the tent and bring in more of the squishy middle or the left. Instead of looking towards the base, which is activated. The base is ready for action. Instead of looking towards the base of your own party, he's looking elsewhere. He's going to look towards the Democrats. Now, this is what I said was going to happen from the beginning. He's a progressive. I've been saying that for years. If you disagree, look, I'd love to hear from you. Give us a call, 360-450-5625. We can talk about it. But he is a big government guy. It's just the facts. He's for socialized medicine. He said that the government's going to pay for it. And this bill that he tried to push through here, Trumpcare, Ryan Care, whatever you want to call it, it's still socialized medicine. And it will ultimately lead to the collapse of what is it, a fifth of our economy, the healthcare industry? A fifth of the economy. The government wants to completely crash it and take it over. That's what it will lead to. And the Republicans, if they would have passed this, they would have been the ones that got the blame in the first place. At least now it's still owned by the Democrats. It's not about being loyal. Instead of being loyal to people, let's be loyal to principles. The big ideas. The ideas that founded this country. The whole reason we created the government was to protect life, liberty, and property. Again, if Donald Trump is doing something that's constitutional, is doing something that's pro-liberty, I'm going to support him. And I hope everyone else does too. But if Donald Trump isn't, let's get away from this cult of personality. We're supposed to be, again, the conservatives. I'm a libertarian with some conservative leanings. I typically align with a lot of conservative principles. With the exception of the war on drugs and some other areas. But it just seems like the longer this goes on, the more we're talking about the people and less about these ideas, these core principles. It's not about you, Trump. It's about the American people and freedom. It's about these principles. Anyway, so the article continues here. He's disappointed that people he thought were loyal to him weren't. It's time to start. It's time for the party to start governing. Priebus said, "It's time. It's time our folks come together, and I think it's time to potentially get a few moderate Democrats on board as well, which means this is going to go further to the left. This agenda, the administration, is going to go further to the left, away from the Republicans, more towards the Democrats." And again, this is what I predicted to begin with. And it's also, this is not something that is surprising. You know, I called this a long time ago, and it's interesting that Donald Trump is going to push this agenda to the left in order to open up to these, because he doesn't really have much choice. He either has to get the Freedom Caucus on board and placate to that group, and as a result, you have to. What they were saying was they wanted to do the repeal and then do a piecemeal of the replacement. So if they didn't like what was being replaced with, they could fight that. But everyone agrees that we should repeal Obamacare. So let's do that first. And then we can argue about what we're going to replace it with and how. But no. It's all or nothing. You do this, you do it my way, or nothing at all. We're moving on to the next thing. And in fact, I'm done with the Freedom Caucus. We're going to go ahead and placate to the Democrats and push the agenda to the left in order to get them on board. And again, it doesn't make sense why the Democrats are fighting him so much on this. A lot of the stuff that he's saying is progressive, is very far to the left. What we're used to has shifted so far. If we would have not had Obamacare, and Donald Trump would have suggested this, every Republican would have opposed him. Or at least they ought to, if they even remotely consider themselves free market or conservative. But because we've already got this, it's okay to just kind of go down a little bit. Instead of having socialized medicine at Obamacare level, you just step it down a notch. And now you're still not free. You still have a crappy healthcare system. But now the Republicans are totally to blame. So, anyway, this just seems like nonsense, I think, coming from the Trump administration. And I honestly hope that they don't do anything with this, and this bill just stops. And I'm very, very happy that the Freedom Caucus did what they did, that they stopped this from happening, because I didn't expect this. I honestly thought that they were going to just go with the flow. I thought they were going to allow this to go through, because honestly, they usually don't have any spine. They're usually spineless and feckless, and all they care about is sliding underneath the radar and getting reelected. So I want to talk about something that's going on. This is another subject change here. Here's an article. Looks like I can't read this article. All right, so let me put this in Google, because I know this is something I read earlier here. 1 second. Man beaten at pro-Trump rally. Okay, let's see if I can read this on any of these here. Sorry, this is apparently the Washington Times I have to sign up for. LA Times, here we go, LATimes.com. Violence breaks out at pro-Trump rally in Huntington Beach. So, marchers and counter-protesters clashed Saturday at a Make America Great gathering in Huntington Beach after an anti-President Trump protester doused marchers with pepper spray. The anti-protester, dressed in all black and wearing a mask. Again, keep in mind, folks, let's know exactly who we're talking about. Who are these people? This is the Antifa group, the anti-fascist group that we were talking about a few episodes, actually a couple months ago. We've talked about them several times. These Antifa guys, these are these anarchists who think that they're anti, or think that they're anarchists, but they're really communists, and they're going against what they deem as fascism from Donald Trump. And again, I'm not here to say that Donald Trump is or isn't a fascist. I don't really care. The point of this is that they're going out there and counter-protesting and apparently pepper-spraying people. They're all dressed in black, and these guys are ready for violence. These are the same guys that have been destroying public and private property when they have their own riots, which they call protests, and they try to say, oh, mostly peaceful protests. Look, no, it's a riot. These are riots. These are the same people. These are the same organized groups of people, Antifa. So anyway, they go out and they create a wall. First of all, this pro-Donald Trump rally was marching down the road, and they literally holding pictures of a wall try to block these guys from walking through. Look, I'm not here to say who was the first ones to swing or whatever, but people were beaten. There was violence. There was fighting. There was pepper spraying. One man allegedly started beating some guy with a "Make America Great" sign, a flagpole or something. That they were hitting him over the head. He said, "I hit him 5 times over the head." His name is Gunther, who yelled at the man as the man was detained by law enforcement officers. He said that they pepper sprayed his wife, which is why he was hitting them with that flag. Regardless, let me just point out the difference in how the right and the left protest. It seems like this extremism is almost exclusively on the left. And what I mean by that is the way that they protest. You don't have a right to go out and block people from walking down a street. You don't have a right to stand in the middle of the road and block traffic, cars. You don't have a right to block a freeway. You don't have a right to assault people. You don't have a right to spit on people. You don't have a right to shut people's free speech down. You don't have a right to stop a rally. You don't have a right to go out and intimidate people. You don't have a right to protest to the point of basically trying to shut down people's free speech. You shouldn't do those kind of things in the first place, just so you can hear the other side. But we're not doing that. We're not listening to the other side. All we're doing is shouting each other down. And as things accelerate, the right will become more radicalized, as we're seeing now with the rise of nationalism inside the Republican Party, which is leading to actual neo-Nazis, uber-nationalists, white supremacists coming together to become more radical and push this more radical agenda, which again, it is fascism. What that element of the alt-right is doing is fascism. But the left, they're accelerated too. They're pushing further and further. And by the way, I want to just comment here. These guys in the Antifa group at this protest, I saw one guy. He unzipped his black jacket and he had on a communist hammer and sickle. Red commie hammer and sickle. So, again, these people, we know who they are. We know exactly who they are. But we're going to see more of this. I think the radicalized right and left will both be meeting in the streets here, fighting and rioting each other in the coming months. I said 2016 is going to be a riot. Well, it was. There were riots, and there's going to be more. It's going to get worse. Especially as the Democrats continue to fight Donald Trump tooth and nail at every step. They're screaming at the top of their lungs. And I want you to imagine when one of the other justices retire from the Supreme Court. They're already using up their political will here, their political capital, to fight Donald Trump's nomination of Gorsuch. What's going to happen when they're... And again, this is replacing Scalia, another originalist. So we're replacing originalist. We're replacing an originalist with an originalist. Imagine what it's going to be like when we're doing the same thing with, let's say, somebody who's very left-leaning who might retire, like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Imagine how much the left's going to scream then. And will it be... Will they still have any political capital left, or will we be ignoring them, thinking that it's just, oh, here they go again? I feel like a lot of people are tired of it. I know I am. I'm so tired of talking about people. Let's not talk about people anymore and come back to our core principles. Anyway, I have another clip here, and this is just an interesting article. This is on uproxx.com, UPROXX.com. Article is titled "Michael Moore Warns Democrats About Celebrating Too Soon over Trumpcare. This is not time to throw some kind of party. The article reads, in the wake of Republicans pulling a bill that would repeal Obamacare, the Democrats are dusting their shoulders off a bit. The GOP worked tirelessly for years to repeal Obamacare's Health Care Act, with House Speaker Paul Ryan even saying he's been dreaming of cutting health care since his frat boy keg sipping days. But now the Trumpcare bill was pulled at the last minute on Friday for lack of support, and some Democrats are celebrating the bill's demise. One person not celebrating is Director Michael Moore, who said it's fine to toot your own horn for a bit, just don't get arrogant. He says this is not time for Democrats to gloat or throw some kind of party. This time we have to double down. Please understand, Trump is telling you the truth when he tells you that Obamacare is going to explode or implode. They're going to actively make sure that happens. He went on to say that this is the perfect time for Democrats to win over some disillusioned Trump supporters, as some may be unhappy that he's not fulfilling his promises. He said a lot of people, they're getting it. They're getting that they were lied to. A lot of promises were held out to them that aren't going to come true. And they saw just how transparent the Republicans and Trump were with this bill. Let me ask you something, folks. Do you think that let me start over here. I see the Democrats, as always, 100% of the time being a unified front. I don't ever see any kind of division with inside the ranks of the Democrat Party. They are full-blown socialists now, 100% talking about single-payer health care. And when Obamacare initially was passed, everybody was on board. The same thing doesn't apply to the Republicans. The Republicans are fractured. It is a fractured party. You have the progressives inside the party who, like, the establishment guys like Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, John Boehner back when he was Speaker, and there's so many other Republicans who are progressive, who are big government. John McCain. There's tons of these guys on there, and then you have the conservatives, and even in there you have people who are different degrees of conservative, and then you have moderates, and it's hard to line up these groups. It just doesn't seem like we have the same kind of cohesion as the Democrats do. I honestly don't know how much longer the GOP can survive with this many coalitions that are different from each other. They want different things. I honestly think that we're going to see very soon here the end of the Republican Party as we know it, and I think one of these parties is going to fail. And I don't see it being the Democrats. I mean, maybe they'll rebrand in some way because they may not be able to get elected again. I doubt it, though. I think the Republican Party is due for a reset. Not to mention our entire economy, but I digress. Anyway, so let's go back to our featured topics here. I want to talk about, we're not going to have a whole lot of time to talk about everything that I wanted to get on the agenda here, so let's move forward here. I talked about North Korea last week. We're going to go ahead and cut that this week. Let's move on. Let's talk about Tim Allen. You guys know Tim Allen from Home Improvement. I'm actually a big fan of Tim Allen. I like him. But he was criticized for comparing Hollywood to 1930s Germany. Here's a clip. You guys can hear it for yourself. He was on Jimmy Kimmel, by the way. Here we go.
You went to the presidential inauguration, right?
I was invited by, we did a VIP thing for the vets and went to the Veterans Ball. And so I went to go see the Democrats and Republicans. Yeah, I went to the inauguration.
Look at how he's immediately got to qualify why he was there in the first place. He looks very, very nervous about the fact that he's saying he was there because, again, Hollywood is eating their own. If you even so much as say that you don't hate Donald Trump and he's not a fascist, then you're going to get blackballed from the industry. But anyway, here's the rest of the clip.
I'm not attacking you.
You get this down. I'm not kidding. You got to be real careful around here. You get beat up if you don't believe what everybody believes. It's 30s Germany. I don't know what happened. If you're not part of the group, you know what we believe is right. I go, well, I might have a problem with that. I'm a comedian. I like going on both sides.
Okay, so again, this is what is happening in Hollywood. They want you to have this collective mindset where you actually you have to you know what you're supposed to believe. You know what the progressive cause is, and again, it's all about virtue signaling. By not saying that you support these set of values or these set of legislations or this or that or whatever they're saying, they think that you are not a good person, and as a result, they're going to ostracize you. So let me read this article here. This is on The Guardian. Article titled, Tim Allen Condemned for Comparing Hollywood to 1930s Germany. Article written by Gwynolyn Mumford, I think. The Anne Frank Center for Mutual Respect has called on Tim Allen to issue an apology after jokingly compared being a conservative in Hollywood to living in 1930s Germany. I don't know about you guys. I'm not even going to read the rest of this. I'm so sick of these organizations who think they hold a market on Nazi Germany comparisons or anything said about 1930s Germany or anything said about Nazis, period. Look, we have a freedom of speech. People aren't saying that it's exactly like that, first of all. And I hope Tim Allen does not apologize for this. He's making a comparison, and it's a joke. It's not saying that it's exactly like it, but there are some elements that are similar. It's very frustrating. So let's see here. There's Allen's remarks. I'm not going to read this entire thing. Allen's remarks were subsequently condemned by the organization, which campaigns for civil and human rights across America, in a Facebook post. Tim, have you lost your mind? The post quoted Stephen Goldstein, the organization's executive director, as saying, "No one in Hollywood today is subjecting you or anyone else to what the Nazis imposed on the Jews in Germany. The world's most evil program of dehumanization, imprisonment, and mass brutality implemented by an entire national government as a prelude for the genocide of nearly an entire people." So, again, we're not allowed to say anything. We're not allowed to make these comparisons. If you disagree with the comparison, say so. But the fact is that he's being condemned illustrates the exact point that he was talking about. You can't say things without being yelled at. Even if it's a joke, he's a comedian. How come the leftist comedians get to say whatever the hell they want? As long as you're on the left and you're fitting the leftist narrative, you can say whatever you want. You can compare Donald Trump to Hitler. You can do whatever you want at that point. No one will condemn you for that. It's this hive mind that's on the left. Anyway, all right, so we're going to move quickly here. Let's go to the next article. By the way, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say on that. 360-450-5625. 360-450-5625. You can get us on Facebook, facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. You can follow us, you can message us on Twitter @OnTheMoveShow. So let's skip the Pyongyang thing. North Korea, bad. Developing long-range missiles to strike their enemies. They're bad. Bad. But we talked about that last week. We'll probably talk about it again in the future. Let's play a clip from Peter Schiff talking about how we're dangerously close to a recession.
Do you think a rate hike next week will put the brakes on this rally, Peter?
Well, the first time the Fed hiked rates, December of 2015, the markets were giving the Fed the all clear, and then they tanked, right? We got off to the worst start to a year in history, and then the Fed backed off and didn't raise rates again for an entire year. Now, when they raised rates in December last year, it was in the middle of Trump mania, and so they kind of got a pass. But now we'll see. This is a gigantic bubble. It's gotten a lot bigger since we elected Trump. Will this next rate hike prick it? There's a chance. Eventually the air is going to come out of this bubble. So if it's not this rate hike, it's going to be something else. But, you guys were talking earlier about the U.S. economy, oil prices. The economy is a mess. Look at Atlanta Fed is now looking for 1.2% first quarter GDP. It was at 3.4% February 1st. We are dangerously close to a recession in this country. Demand for gasoline is down. That's why oil prices are going down. And a rate hike is just going to make the problem worse.
So you're reading the data and you're looking at oil prices and decline that we've seen over the past few days as evidence that there is a slowdown in the U.S. economy. That is the result of a slowdown.
There's a lot of evidence. In fact, if you look beneath those, window dressing for the manufacturing jobs that I think some of the manufacturers maybe added to curry some favor with Trump, look at what happened in retail sales. That could be the beginning of a huge trend. Why are retailers laying off so many people? Because Americans are shopped out. They're loaded up with credit card debt. They're buried under a mountain of auto debt and student loans. A lot of these retailers are going bankrupt, and these minimum wage hikes that we've been getting all around the country are just going to expedite the job losses.
But you've been singing about recession for a long time. You've also been on both sides of this argument. You've told me a couple of years ago that rates were going to the moon. Now you're telling me there's no economy, we're about to go into recession. Say what you want about pulling jobs forward or that there's the Trump buddy system going on here, but manufacturing jobs and goods producing jobs were at their best levels this month since 2000. And you get back to the PMIs, you get back to the services sector, and you can't tell me this is an economy that is sputtering here. If anything, the Fed would not be making the noise they're making if there's too much at risk.
Yeah, well, we just printed the highest trade deficit in 5 years. We have the highest inflation in 5 years. It doesn't sound like things are on track. Look, Janet Yellen is always going to try to put a positive spin on everything. But the reality is the economy has barely been growing. And in fact, I think if the government was more honest about the inflation rate, we would have seen that we actually have been in a recession. That's why Donald Trump...
This is exactly what I've been arguing, by the way. We are already in a recession. We've been in one for quite some time. The stagnation that we've been seeing is, in my opinion, a recession. The only reason why it's not being called that is because, first of all, Obama was in office and they had a complicit Fed. They kept the interest rates low, tried to make it look like everything was fine while doing QE, pumping trillions of dollars into the stock market, creating this bubble. And it's going to burst. It's only a matter of time. And again, it got even worse here with the Trump bump. As you all may be familiar with, the stock market went up when Trump got elected. Everybody thought that it was going to be doom and gloom to the economy. Doom and gloom to the stock market when Donald Trump got elected. But let's keep in mind that a lot of these people think that everything's baked in with Donald Trump. That he was going to cut regulation, cut taxes, cut Obamacare, all of this stuff. And now we're seeing that this may not happen. Obamacare may stick around. Without conservatives pushing this forward here, without Donald Trump, aligning with conservatives to cut taxes and regulations, we're in a whole lot of trouble for the tax cuts and regulation cuts to begin when he's cozying up to Democrats, to moderate Democrats. What will that mean? I'll tell you, moderate Democrats don't have the answers for the problems that we face.
Trump was elected president because the economy was so weak, people voted for him. But, the markets are ultimately going to have to come to grips with this. As far as the Fed...
And the markets will come to grips to this. And I fear that once these investors, once these stock market guys start figuring out what Trump is really going to do, I think it's all going to catch up. And I fear for what's going to happen here. I hope I'm wrong. I've been saying that we're headed towards a collapse for a while, a total economic reset. Hope I'm wrong. I don't think I am. Here's more from Peter Schiff.
Look, the Fed wants to pretend that the economy is doing well, but look where we are. Look how long interest rates were at zero, and look how much they barely raised them, since they started talking about it a few years ago.
Where rates were and where, why they were there is yesterday's story. The fact of the matter is, look around the world. There's global expansion. You can't deny it. And the fact that rates are moving higher is a function of that. It's not just the U.S., by the way.
Look, what's moving rates higher is rising. No, it's rising inflation. And inflation is going to go a lot higher, and eventually that's going to push long-term interest rates up. But no, that's not reflation. It is inflation. And look at the dollar. Dollar was down today.
Deflation, and, that was the other.
And meanwhile, foreign stock markets, emerging markets, gold stocks are beating the U.S. market this year. They were beating the U.S. markets last year. In fact, foreign markets are going to beat the U.S. market every year of the Trump presidency.
So that's Peter Schiff. Not exactly good news, according to Peter Schiff. So, General Mills, they reported low numbers, lower than what they projected estimates. Also, another story, Sears has substantial doubts about its future. Let's go ahead and go to job cuts. This is one of my favorite websites here I go to frequently, dailyjobcuts.com. We got a bunch of layoffs here. U.S. Weekly, 40 layoffs. GE's laying off some people. United Services, Children, St. Charles County nonprofit laying off 135 people. Thompson Investment Casting in Rochester, 53 people. Norwin School District to consider layoffs. There's 200 layoffs from Kraft Heinz. Boeing plans another 245 layoffs. Crystal Lake-based Community High School District, 5 layoffs. Oregon Department of Environmental Quality layoffs. Up to 6,000 layoffs from Teva Pharmaceutical. Milwaukee Power Group in Milwaukee, 150 layoffs. Manpower Group in Milwaukee. Mansfield University layoffs possible. I'm just going through some of these here. This is just in March, by the way. I'm still in March. Rosetta Stone, 40 to 50 layoffs. CH2M Hill Plateau Remediation Company, up to 250 layoffs. GoPro, 250 layoffs. Baptist Health Kentucky, layoffs up to 288 people. Again, this is still in, I'm up to the 15th. I went back to the 15th of March. Alexion Pharmaceuticals in New Haven, 210 layoffs. Layoffs all over the place. So the economy is not doing well. This is all artificial. It's going to come down. Petrodollar, if you're not familiar with that Ponzi scheme, once a dollar is worthless, nobody's going to want to buy oil in U.S. dollars. When that happens, lots and lots of money, billions and billions of dollars in foreign bank accounts are going to come flooding back into the United States economy. And a dollar that's being worth less and less and less will eventually be worthless. I hope you look. I really want to take a moment here and talk to you. I'm not being paid by anyone to do this. I highly recommend that if you haven't done so already, first of all, your first order of business should be to have an exit route out of the city if you live in a city. If the dollar resets and these people who are on food stamps and other government benefits, people who are getting money from the government, not all of them, but some of them are entitled. They feel like they are owed these things. And if they go to unload their EBT card at a grocery store and money's not there, some people will be rioting. And there will be others who will use this as an opportunity just to steal and to riot and to watch the world burn. You will want to get out of the cities as quickly as possible if this happens. So have a plan, number one. I know you may have to work in a city. I know you may live in a city, but have a plan to get out. Where are you going to go? What are you going to do if this happens? Also have food, water, medical supplies. If you have a medicine that you take frequently, stock up. If you need it to survive, stock up. Also, it wouldn't hurt you to consider gold and silver. Physical gold and silver, something that you can have and hold. Might be a good idea to get your money out of the bank. Might be a good idea to just have it cash. What's the point now of having your money in the bank when they can just take it? They can just take your money. They're not going to do a bailout again through taxpayer money. They're going to do a bail-in next time. The banks are just going to take the money out of your bank accounts in order so they can stay afloat. They're going to limit how much money you can withdraw. Take some steps. Again, I'm not saying put yourself in a difficult situation to where you're going to be, don't buy thousands of dollars worth of gold and silver now, put yourself in debt and screw yourself over in the future. Do what you can do, small steps at a time. Get a week or two worth of food initially if you haven't done anything like that. There's plenty of places that you can go to buy bulk food, buy like freeze-dried food. That stuff's good. Also, you can buy food bulk, get it in buckets, 5-gallon buckets, put it in a Mylar bag, seal that sucker up, put some air absorbers in there. That stuff will last for a long time. Rice, lentils, beans. Lentils are beans, I guess, but you get the drift. Stock up on stuff. And once you do that stuff, it's like an insurance policy. You don't have to worry about it. You got that covered. If anything were to happen, you're covered. At least for a little while. Give you a little buffer so that you can figure out what you're going to do next. Figure out what the economy is going to look like then. Figure out how to make money. Figure out the next move. It'll buy you some time, give you some breathing room so it's not as serious as it might be otherwise. And maybe we'll come back. Maybe it won't be as bad as I think it is. I disagree. I think it will be pretty bad, but hey, maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong before. Wouldn't be the first time. So anyway, let's go to another topic here. This will be the last topic of the day. And in fact, we're going to cut to a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Tomi Lahren. Did the Blaze fire or suspend Tomi Lahren for saying that she's pro-choice? We'll cover that when we come back.
Hi, I'm Latasha Worley, and I work with candidates to creatively and effectively communicate their message to voters. I offer professional graphic design services, from yard signs to flyers, from logos to vehicle magnets. Email me today at latashaworley@gmail.com. That's LATOSHA Worley@gmail.com for a quote on items for your campaign. Have you visited the On the Move with Mac Worley store? We've got amazing original design t-shirts, hoodies, cell phone cases, and coffee mugs for sale at OnTheMoveShow.com. Just click the shop link on our homepage. You won't want to miss out on the iHeart Open Carry and Bear Arms t-shirts for only $20 plus shipping. Again, just go to OnTheMoveShow.com and click the shop link on our homepage. Your purchases will help make the On the Move show bigger and better. We appreciate your support.
Oath Keepers is a nonpartisan association of current active duty military, reserve, guard, veterans, peace officers, and firefighters who will fulfill the oath we swore, with the support of like-minded citizens who take an oath to stand with us, to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help us God. Join us at oathkeepers.org.
Broadcasting from deep within the heartland of free America, where liberty still shines bright. You're listening to On the Move with Mac Worley III.
All right, Mac Pack, we're back. We're wrapping up the show here. We got one more article to go over here. Natasha on Twitter said, she just got here. What did you miss? Well, we've talked about a couple different things. We talked about Trumpcare, how it failed in Congress and what the fallout was. We talked about Tim Allen, how he's being condemned for Hollywood, or for comparing Hollywood to the 1930s Germany. And we talked about Peter Schiff saying we're dangerously close to a recession in the United States and that this bubble is going to burst. You can feel free to go through that on the archive, by the way. By the way, we broadcast every Sunday, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you're not able to make it for the live show, that's cool. You can always check it on the archive. The archive, every episode that we've ever done is on the archive. It's on Spreaker.com, SPREAKER.com/OnTheMoveShow. You can check out all of our episodes. Again, this is episode 156 of the program. And by the way, MacPack, I really do appreciate you tuning in. If you made it this far in the program, please, whatever platform you're listening to it on, whether or not it's Spreaker, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes, whatever it is, please smash the like button. Share it around with your friends and family. Tell them, hey, check out this show. If you like it, that is. Yeah, heck, even if you don't like it, please, feel free. Anyway, so let's talk about this article here. Tomi Lahren. You guys may be familiar with Tomi Lahren. She's a firecracker, let's say. She's a pretty decent looking woman who's on the Blaze, and she's got a big following. She's got millions of followers. She's bigger than some networks are herself. She's been on the Blaze radio and the Blaze network, and she's known for these really fiery what do they call that? I can't remember what she calls her end of show. I think it's Final Thoughts or something like that. Yeah, Final Thoughts. And anyway, she was on the View, and she's talking about how she used to be pro-life, now she's pro-choice. I'll just go ahead and play the clip, and you can hear it from her.
But let me ask you this: you call yourself a conservative Republican and a constitutional conservative, but you also consider yourself pro-choice, which is interesting to me because 68% of conservative Republicans think that abortion should be illegal across the board.
No, I'm pro-choice, and here's why. I am a constitutional, someone that loves the Constitution. I am someone that's for limited government, and so I can't sit here and be a hypocrite and say I'm for limited government, but I think that the government should decide what women do with their bodies. I can sit here and say that as a Republican, and I can say, you know what, I'm for limited government, so stay out of my guns. And you can stay out of my body as well. So I think it's...
You need to go out and speak to women about that.
I do every day.
Women.
I do every day. And, I get a lot of attacks from conservative women as well.
Yeah.
I think it's
unusual.
Equal hate from all sides for me.
You don't have any problems with I told you that we wouldn't invite everybody. Give it up.
Okay. So her argument here, I would say this is a flawed argument. Let me just point out here. She's saying that she would be hypocritical if she said that she was pro-limited government but also pro-life. The argument here is not hypocritical, first of all. The argument that the government should step in to protect the life of an unborn child, if that's what you believe. If you're pro-life, you believe that this fetus, this baby, is a real live baby. It's just not been born yet. And at what point are we deciding to protect it? All right, pro-choice. There's no limits. You can abort this baby up to and including the moment when it's born. You can right up to that limit because it's your body, and that's not alive. It's not alive until it's born. Okay, this is the argument. And if it's not alive, if there's some minutia, if there's some gray area when it's not okay to abort this baby when it's in utero, essentially, then we're talking about this being life at some point. So where is that line being drawn? Well, if you draw any point before the baby's born, you're pro-life. Believe it or not, you're pro-life because what you're arguing for is some limits on abortion because that baby is alive and it needs some protection from the government. And again, what were the three reasons why our government was protected or was created? To protect life, liberty, and property. Those are the only three reasons why we created this government in the first place. So it's not hypocritical to say you're pro-limited government, that you support limited government, but to also say that the government should step in to protect the life of an unborn baby. Because the government should step in, and any small government advocate is going to also say that the government should step in and protect life of someone else to prevent murder. So there's no hypocrisy here. It's not hypocritical. Now, she's entitled to believe whatever she wants to believe. I don't have any issues with that. But here is the kicker. Here's where this story gets a little bit of a twist. There's an article on thedailycaller.com. The Blaze suspends Tomi Lahren. I don't know if this is accurate. I'm just going to tell you, I have no idea if this is accurate, and it would surprise me if it was. But let's go ahead and read the article. This is written by Peter Hassan, dated March 20th, 2017. Conservative media company The Blaze has suspended political commentator Tomi Lahren. Multiple sources with knowledge of the situation confirmed to the Daily Caller. Now, I don't know what sources they have. I've not seen any comments by The Blaze. I haven't seen any news reports from The Blaze saying they suspended Tomi Lahren. No idea. But let's continue. Lahren's show is suspended for at least a week, starting Monday, according to D.C. sources. A source with direct knowledge of the situation previously told the D.C., that's the Daily Caller, that Lahren's contract with the company goes until September, but that she may leave the company before then. Lahren's inflammatory style placed her at odds with other employees at The Blaze, as previously reported by the D.C. Tensions were high between Lahren and her co-workers at The Blaze, even before she called pro-life conservative hypocrites in appearing on ABC's The View on Friday. In her appearance, on The View, Lahren said she is pro-choice and called pro-life conservative hypocrites, saying, "I can't sit here and be a hypocrite and say I'm for limited government, but I think the government should decide what women do with their bodies." Again, let's be clear. I think this is kind of construing that her saying that she doesn't want to be a hypocrite. She said she can't sit here and be a hypocrite and say I'm for limited government. But she's not necessarily calling pro-choice or pro-life people hypocrites. She's just saying she can't be one. However, you could construe it to mean that she's calling pro-lifers hypocrites, if they're for small government, that is. However, again, I've already said this argument is flawed. You can be for small government and you can be pro-life because, again, the whole reason why we created government in the first place was to protect life, liberty, and property. And it can be argued very easily that protecting an unborn baby is a purview of a government that is trying to protect life. Life. And we're not just talking about the woman here. It's not just your body. There's someone else in there. There's a child in there. At what point is that human life? Look, I'm open for discussion on this. I'm open to debate on this. When does life begin? I don't know. Any time that we say it begins is going to be an arbitrary time, whether or not it's at conception or at birth or somewhere in between. Whatever we pick is going to be arbitrary because we picked it. Now, the argument could be made for conception. The argument could be made for birth. However, I think that's a little ridiculous. My thoughts is that whenever the baby can survive outside the womb on its own, whenever medical technology can keep that baby alive outside the womb, they ought not be allowed to just kill it. It's my opinion. I can also understand the argument for when the baby's heart beats, because maybe that's life. Who knows? But that's at 6 weeks. FYI. But I do think that in the abortion in the third trimester is abhorrent. It's a little ridiculous to think that somebody who got pregnant, and again, we're not talking about the very rare cases of incest and rape, which are extremely rare. Extremely rare. Somebody not taking personal responsibility for their actions. They had sex. If they had consensual sex with someone, didn't take precautions, or the precautions failed, are they not responsible for their own actions? Does that give them the right, because they don't want this child, to kill it? Well, if that's the standard, you just don't want it, you can kill it, why doesn't that not apply to a 1-year-old baby, a 2-year-old baby, a 5-year-old baby, a 30-year-old man? Why doesn't that apply? If you no longer want that child, why can't you kill it? If that's the only standard that we have. Again, if you're pro putting any kind of limits whatsoever on when you can have an abortion, whether or not it's in the first trimester, second trimester, third trimester, whenever it is, you're pro-life. And let's just point out here, if Tomi Lahren was actually suspended by the Blaze, I don't support that. I think that she should be allowed to say whatever she wants. We should be welcoming all sorts of different opinions. I think she's misled by saying that pro-life Republicans who are small government are hypocrites, but she's, again, entitled to her opinion. I don't see anywhere on this article that actually has any direct quotes from the Blaze. I don't see anything that, and even Lahren, according to this article, did not immediately return an email to the Daily Caller seeking a comment. So this could be speculation. This could be false. But I just don't like the idea of the Blaze suspending somebody simply for stating their opinion. We don't need to all be in lockstep, and I like the idea of diversity of thought, even if it's a thought I disagree with, because we can talk about it. But anyway, that's our show for today. We're out of time. I certainly do appreciate you all tuning in and really appreciate your support, MacPack. Thank you so much for tuning in week after week. You're the tip of the spear. Please share the program out, like this episode, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook.com/OnTheMoveShow. Follow us on Twitter @OnTheMoveShow. Like us on Facebook, I already said that one. Like us on Spreaker, or follow us on Spreaker.com/OnTheMoveShow. Subscribe to us on YouTube.com/OnTheMoveShow. And as always, know your rights, assert your rights, and get on the move.